Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Yossi Goslin, NBA salary cap analyst, and this is a salary cast where I'm going to do a mock offseason for the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to break down how they could do some hypothetical moves, mostly for fun, but also for educational purposes. Make sure you're subscribed to me on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. See all my previous content where I'm doing the salary cast podcast, and subscribe to Third Apron, my newsletter where you get even deeper salary cap analysis. I'm covering every team there as well. And follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm going to be very active this time of year, where I'm going to be reacting to transactions as they happen. We're almost there at free agency. And I even say put me on notifications. I'm going to have a lot of good analysis as the moves come in. And yeah, so this one on the Pelicans, I've already covered them extensively ahead of the offseason. I've done a podcast discussion with Will Guillory, and I did a more cap-centric analysis on Third Apron. I put the links in the description. I highly suggest you check them out for a little more context on their upcoming offseason. So in this video, I am going to have the Pelicans trade up in the draft by facilitating a Giannis trade, and I'm also going to have them trade for Domantas Sabonis. So let's get into it. So the Pelicans just had one of the worst seasons in their franchise history, largely due to injuries, and injuries have always been a problem with New Orleans. It's been a thing happening over the past decade for whatever reason. All their different iterations of the Pelicans have always dealt with a high amount of injuries compared to other teams. And this year, it hit them considerably hard. And a lot of guys struggled even when they were available. And it just seems like the group stalled. So now they have a new front office. And some of that might stem from how the Dejounte Murray trade fell out, giving up what ended up being the best player in the deal in Dyson Daniels and extra picks to get Dejounte Murray. And then on top of that, he tore his Achilles, missed basically a lot of last season, and he's probably going to miss most of this upcoming season as well. And we don't know what kind of player he's going to be when he returns. So they've been trying to be competitive as much as possible, even though they've been also developing a lot of their young players at the same time. But at most, they've been topping out as an 8 seed. And so it kind of feels like the new front office is trying to they want to push things a little further. Maybe they'll be a little more aggressive in trying to upgrade the roster now. And they've got control of basically all their picks and several young players that I'm sure a lot of teams will covet. And it feels they might dip into their chest to make some sort of an aggressive move now. Now, I know there's a lot of uncertainty, particularly with Zion Williamson. There's a lot of different conflicting rumors on what the status is with him in New Orleans. The rumors he could be available. It's totally possible that the new front office that has no attachment to him might be okay with trading him. But now there's also some conflicting reports indicating maybe they're going to try to make it work. For what it's worth, they had him represent the Pelicans in the draft lottery. So that's kind of encouraging for him staying, I guess. So ultimately, though, if they are trying to get better now, it's going to be hard to do that while trading him, despite the constant unavailability. So I've got him staying in this mock offseason. So what are their goals? First, let's look at their payroll. Full roster already, 14 guys. They're going to be about $5 million below the tax. They're not going to want to exceed the luxury tax at any point, that $187.9 million threshold. They have never paid the tax once in franchise history. They're definitely not going to do it this season, especially considering how bad they were last year. So we're going to keep expenses neutral with all the moves they make. Next, we are going to move up in the draft. With Murray's injury, we don't know when he's going to come back, what kind of player he's going to be. They're going to have a large selection of guards to choose from with the 7th overall pick, but maybe they could do a little better. So I'm going to have them move up to number 2 to get Dylan Harper, which would give them their answer at guard for the future. And then last, I'm going to have them acquire Domantas Sabonis. I think that realistically, they are going to try to pursue a veteran center. As good as Yves Missi has been so far, I think they're going to want a veteran big who can help push the Pels to win more games now. And then that starter can help be the bridge for Yves Missi eventually being the next starter. So let's take a look at the Pelicans draft situation over the next 8 years, because like I mentioned earlier, I think that they're going to look to upgrade the roster with picks and not so much with the best players that they already have. So they have all their own firsts going forward. They have the 7th overall pick in this upcoming draft. They have an extra first-round pick from the Pacers that they got in the Brandon Ingram trade from the Raptors. And the most fascinating part about what I think can really help them make some interesting moves is that they still have control of the Bucks picks in 2026 and 2027. They have the right to swap their 2026 first with the Bucks outright. and either them or the Hawks are going to get the Bucks pick in 2027. Basically, the least favorable of the Pelicans and Bucks pick will go to the Hawks. However, the Pelicans could still keep it if it stays in the top 4. So there's actually a slight chance the Pelicans could end up keeping 2 picks in the 2027 draft. It's unlikely, but there's a chance. And this is why people are saying that you should keep an eye on the Pelicans as a potential facilitator in a Giannis trade. Not that they can get Giannis, but because they have these picks, and this is from the Drew Holiday trade from 5 years ago. Like, now that trade is starting to pay off for the Pelicans. The fact that they can help the Bucks get their own picks back is what can make the Pelicans an interesting player in wherever Giannis goes to. Because realistically, like right now it's still May. I cannot see a scenario where the Bucks are like better than being a bottom 10 worst team after trading Giannis, especially. And now they have Damian Lillard injured on the team. That's $54 million of eating up their cap sheet next year. So I get that the Bucks can get some veterans and try to be as competitive as possible, but I think the reality is they're going to stink next year. So it might just be in their best interest to get control of their picks back in the next 2 years. Those are probably going to be more valuable to them than getting picks from other teams. So I'm going to leverage that in a Giannis trade that's going to help the Pelicans move up in the draft. Then we'll trade some future picks to get their big man. As you can see, they can trade a maximum of 6 first-round picks. They're not going to actually trade that many, but the optimal offer that they could make includes up to 6 first-round picks, which would be these 3, and then the even-numbered years in the future. I'm not going to have them go too far out. They're still the Pelicans. I still don't think that they're going to be that good after these moves. I doubt they'll even need to go that far, though, to get some of these moves done. So we'll try to get a trade done with a max of 2 first-round picks, but they'll probably have to be very lightly, if not completely unprotected. So here's the general framework of the trade that I came up with. You can go back in my videos and see that the first Salarycast mock offseason I did was on the Spurs acquiring Giannis. I still feel pretty good like that's going to be one of the more likely outcomes for him. But here's just a new framework that I came up with. Don't worry that it says that the trade failed. This trade could actually work in real life. But the gist is the Spurs are getting Giannis mostly by trading picks. The Pelicans get the 2nd pick in the draft. The Hawks get their picks back from the Spurs, and the Bucks are getting their picks back over the next 2 years, plus some players and extra draft picks. So for the Pelicans, since that's the team we're mainly talking about, they extinguish the 2026 swap with the Bucks and, quote unquote, returning the 2027 pick to the Bucks. Because technically, like, they still have a share in it, and the Hawks do too. And for doing that, the Pels move up from 7 to 2. And they'll get Dylan Harper that way. The Hawks, they're also returning the 2027 pick that they have from the Bucks, which, they're more likely to get the pick based on how the protection is. And in exchange, they are getting their picks back from the Spurs. The 2026 swap they owe to them that gets extinguished, and they get their 2027 first back. And then the Spurs get Giannis mostly for picks and salary filler, and the Bucks, they get control of their picks back over the next 2 years. They get some players. These players will help make the salary matching work just enough, and they get some extra first-round picks. I have the Spurs throwing in a 2029. Oh, big one. They're getting the 7th pick from the Pelicans. So when the Pelicans move up, that's where the 7's going to. And I have them getting like a Spurs 29. The Spurs could throw in another one in 2031 at most, or 2032. But the biggest thing is the Bucks can now bottom out and try to get some players over the next few years to build the next team. So they get the 7th pick this year. Then they can have high draft picks again in 2026 and 2027. And then after that, if they're still not good enough, maybe they're going to have to consider making a deal with the Blazers, who will then have control of their draft between 2028 and 2030 from the Dame trade. And now I'm going to show you my Sabonis trade. Now, like in my other videos, I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm just showing what would be required from the Pelicans end, both in salary matching perspective and in value, to get a deal done. This isn't necessarily what the Kings would be getting back completely. I'm just saying that this is just what the Pelicans need to send out. In reality, it could be a much bigger trade with more teams involved and the Kings getting some other stuff. So first, the salary matching component. Since Sabonis is making more than $42 million, then the 125% trade exception rule applies, meaning the Pelicans can only take back 125% of the salary they're sending out. So they have to send out a minimum of $33.7 million. So to do that, I have them trading CJ McCollum, who's going to be on a very large $30.66 million expiring contract, and Jordan Hawkins. That's mainly the salary matching. Value-wise, I've got the Pelicans trading 3 firsts. First, I'm going to have them trade the 2026 pick, which would be the least favorable of the Pelicans or Pacers pick, which is going to be the Pacers pick, considering how good they are, and 2 unprotected firsts in not too far out years, but a little bit far out, 2027 and 2029. Put some light protections on the last one. So I feel that 3 first-round picks, that's probably a little that's kind of reasonable for Sabonis, considering that the rest of the offer is pretty bare, even in terms of players. Now, you might be asking, is Sabonis actually available, and is this going to be enough for him? I don't think he's going to be available this offseason. I think the Kings are going to probably trade for a point guard, run things back, have a whole offseason with the Christie and Zach LaVine, whom they both brought in midway through the season, and just run things back, try to compete. If they stink again heading into the first third of next year, as we get closer to the trade deadline, you bet we'll probably hear blow it up rumors for the Kings, and that would probably mean they're going to have to listen to offers on Domantas Sabonis. So if we get closer to the trade deadline, the Pelicans are definitely a team I could see going after him, and this is the type of return I could definitely see getting it done, especially considering Domantas Sabonis' age and contract. So now let's take a look at the final roster. So here we've got Sabonis at the top and all their other core players here. And I think they're going to probably be stuck with Dejounte Murray for the next year or so as he recovers from this Achilles injury. But now they have another cornerstone at guard to look forward to in Dylan Harper, who makes a good amount of money since he's a number 2 pick. Now, I also did a couple other things. Mainly, you might notice Kelly Olynyk is not here. So I had them trade him to avoid the tax, not take back any money. I know that's easier said than done, but just for the sake of speeding things up in this video and this mock off season, I removed him. His $13.4 million salary could fit in another team's mid-level exception, which can now be used as trade exceptions. You guys can look at my website, capsheets.com, see who has available exceptions. There's about 10 teams that could outright absorb him and have enough tax flexibility to stay below the tax after. There's all sorts of creative ways that they can get off of him. But yeah, by taking him off, they stay below the tax line. I figure it's probably going to take 2 to 3 second round picks to get a team to absorb him. Pels can trade up to 4 second-round picks, but at the same time, he could still help a team. So maybe there's someone that will take him without requiring too much. I also had them pick up the team option of Brandon Boston, that $2.3 million amount. I had them decline Elfrid Payton's amount, so he's off their books. And then they filled the rest of the roster with minimum signings. And that leaves them about $3 million below the luxury tax line. Now, you might be thinking, well, why don't they just add a 15th guy? To start the season, I'm just going to have them at 14, which is the minimum requirement. And that $3 million leaves room for some potential incentives to hit. Now, with Dejounte Murray probably not going to start the beginning of next year, it's very unlikely he hits any of his incentives because they're all contingent on games played. He has to play at least 65 games for any of them to hit. So I'm guessing he's not going to be able to hit any of them. Sabonis, though, he has $2.6 million total. Half of it's for being an all-star. Half of it's for being all-NBA. Those are all still pretty possible. So you've got some leeway in case he does hit them. And then as you can see, the Pelicans can run back this team again next year and still have plenty of flexibility below the luxury tax line to deepen the roster a little more. They could use some of their mid-level exception. I have them what's projected to be a late lottery pick next year because I'm still not that confident in this group. Look, overall, I can't say I'm excited for this type of team that they might put together. The best part of this offseason that I put together is the fact that they can move up to get number 2, if that's even something that's possible. If you're able to move up from 2 just for giving the Bucks their picks back from a trade that you made 5 years ago, I think that's pretty good value and a great opportunity. But as far as the other stuff, I just can't see this team still being better than an 8 seed at best, just more or less the same track record they've had over the past 4 or 5 years. That's been the story of their high-end outcomes for the early half of this decade. I'm sure injuries are still going to hit them again. Sabonis, he'll raise their floor, maybe get them closer to being a playoff team. But generally speaking, I could see them pursuing a guy like Sabonis or Alperen Şengün, who that's another type of Giannis facilitating trade that could happen involving the Rockets. They have been linked to him before. Just the type of guys I could see the Pelicans pursue realistically. And that's my Pelicans offseason video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had some fun and learned a little something. Let me know what you guys think in the comments now. Would you guys potentially trade these potentially valuable Bucks picks over the next 2 years to move up in the draft, to get them to move up from 7 to 2? And do you think that's even enough to do that, or maybe that's too much value to do that? Because I'm still kind of trying to figure out if where the value proposition lies. But let me know. Please subscribe to all the platforms listed in the overlays, and check out the link in the description about Sports Business Classroom. I'm going to be an instructor there. You can see what that program's all about, and I've got a promo code for those who want to sign up and participate.